Kurungahoma. On today's video, we're going to be talking about the fantastic rock that is obsidian. So if that seems like your sort of thing, stick around. We're going to be doing some tests with it, and I'll see you in the video. So, kia ora. Long time no see. I've been furiously working on things for the end of year for my class, things like reports and all the data and things like that, and statistical information that's important for the children going forward into their next year with their new teacher, which is why I haven't posted anything in quite some time, like a month I think. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be starting off a series looking at natural resources, and what I mean by that is natural resources that would have been used by Neolithic people or primitive people, but also people even up into a modern context where they might come across this resource and it proves that it is useful for some reason or another because of the history behind it and the knowledge in which we know how to use these things. And the first thing we're going to look at is obsidian. Now, this is what inspired this series that is coming up. In New Zealand, obsidian isn't super common. Some countries you can find quite a large quantities of obsidian in various places, but in New Zealand not so much, and there's some good reasons for that. Firstly, it doesn't really occur in too many places, which is very odd because New Zealand is naturally a volcanic place. I live in Auckland. All the videos are shot predominantly in Auckland, and we're surrounded by volcanoes. Volcanoes everywhere, but obsidian is really, really hard to find. And there are only a few places in the North Island that I know of that you can get it. And Taupō is one of them, where there's the large volcanic lake. Or places around there, not necessarily Taupō itself. The other one being Tuhua. Now, Tuhua is a very, very special place. It's basically under ownership or custodianship by the tangata whenua of the area, the local tribe. And there is, I suppose in a New Zealand context we'd call it a tapu. So the obsidian there is very, very precious and special, which means that you can't go over to the island and just take pieces. And when you break a tapu like that, or you infringe on a tapu, you leave yourself open to bad luck and things happening to you because you've broken the sacredness of the area. That's the most European way I can explain it. If you're a New Zealander, yeah, you'd probably understand it in a much more deeper sense than that, but for my international viewers, that's basically what it means. Now, my obsidian wasn't obtained from Tuhua or Taupō, and that's because it was in my backyard. Random. Now, I was doing some landscaping in my backyard, and there was a natural rock feature that had been installed there by the previous owner going up to 20 years ago, and we've lived in the house for at least 7. And so I was doing some work and uncovered a piece of obsidian roughly about that big, and it was a surprise to me because I know obsidian, and I've always really wanted some pieces of it, and I just happened to hit this piece of obsidian and it flaked off, and as soon as I saw it flake off I knew exactly what it was. Now, obsidian is a fantastic material. In Māori culture, there's 2 reverences of geological rocks that are held within high regard. So in other cultures, you know, I've shown on videos before, the Viking culture, spar had a special properties because of its polarization, whereas in New Zealand, Māoris really, really loved pounamu, which is our name for greenstone or jade, and obsidian. Now, pounamu has a lot of good qualities because it's a very hard, sturdy rock, and it's used to make tools and weapons and jewelry, and it's very, very beautiful to look at. Whereas obsidian has a it's much more of a mechanical engineering purpose because it flakes off. And if you're not familiar with obsidian, obsidian is essentially volcanic glass. And you can see there, it looks exactly like glass. And one of its properties is when you hit it or strike it at certain angles, flakes of it will come off just like glass, with very, very, very sharp edges, just like a piece of glass. The only difference being is that you can, like, this is a really good example. This is the actual flake that flaked off, and it's essentially already like a Neolithic hand axe. And because of its thickness and its girth, it gives you a point to hold onto, like an area to hold as the handle, and then you've got these two large cutting edges here. And a lot of cultures around the world praised or desired obsidian for these particular reasons. In popular culture, the most famous being the Aztec and the Incan culture, where obsidian fragments were embedded into wood to make like an obsidian sword. And to a certain extent, those things kind of haven't been found in New Zealand, but they have been used as tools. And some of the information that I've read about, they've been used for adzes and all kinds of stuff like that. And that actually surprises me somewhat, because of its property being glass, it probably doesn't have a lot of strength to be used as an adze repetitively as much as something else like pounamu. Pounamu is much stronger for something like that. That being said, though, it does make a fantastic knife, and carrying a piece of this in your pocket or wherever you might carry it, in a pouch or something like that, because traditionally Māori didn't have pockets, this would be like your Swiss Army knife, because you've got a big piece of stuff like this, and on this side you can see it's very, very jagged. So essentially you've got a saw on this side, and then this side's very sharp and fine, and you've got a carving knife on this side. And also you can use it to scrape. And this particular edge here, you could probably use it to scale fish, and all that kind of stuff. It's also used as a scraper for preparing skins and all that kind of stuff as well. So yeah, it's a very, very multi-purpose tool, and especially if you've got a large piece like this, because it essentially lasts for quite a substantial amount of time. And every time you flake a piece off, you get a new sharp edge. So it's almost, in a sense, like a self-sharpening knife. Now you can see this bit here is very, very jagged, and you might end up flaking off a piece, and you could keep though. And I've got here all the little flakes that came off at the same time as this did, and all of those would have a purpose. Like, I could use these to make a million different things. Like this piece here would make, with a bit of pine tree resin into a wooden shaft, would make a really simple little tiny knife for just cutting fine things. There's one in here that would make a very, very good arrowhead with a little bit more work. I've got an arrowhead there. And there's another one too. This would probably be more of a spearhead because it's just so chunky and large, but the opportunities there are waiting for creation. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to do a little bit of a demonstration to show you how good this is at cutting. So we had a play with it at home, and it was cutting plastic really easily, so I want to try and show you that. Okay, so stick around and I'm going to grab a bottle. So this is just an ordinary pure New Zealand plastic bottle. The irony, pure New Zealand plastic. Anyways, what we're going to do is we're going to cut it with this obsidian, just to show you how good it is at cutting. Now, obviously, plastic isn't too thick a material. It's probably not going to have that many problems cutting into it. So it's already just cut. You can see there, it's like a craft knife. It just cuts straight through. And you can see the indentation. Can you see the indentation? You can see where I've cut it, and with a little bit more pressure. So you can see there how sharp it is. I've just cut in there, and if I use the blade, right? It shows you how sharp it is. Now, I know plastic, like I just said, plastic isn't a very thick material, but if you take into account that especially the Mesoamerican cultures use this as a weapon, plastic is much thicker, stronger than skin and flesh. So if you were I know it sounds a bit gory, but if you were to be cut with that, you'd definitely know about it. Now, it makes really, really fine cuts too, so it wouldn't surprise me entirely if some cultures would have used this to make things like scalpels and things like that in terms of medicinal purposes. And what I mean by medicinal, like performing very simple operations where incisions and things would have had to have been made, because it cuts such a fine line. Now, personally speaking, if you ever find this, really, really, truly look after it. It is such a precious item. It's very, very hard to come across, particularly in New Zealand, but it's so versatile and it could be used for so many different things. And so that's why I keep mine in a big tub. And the larger piece of rock that I talked about earlier in the video is kind of hidden away, because I don't want anything happening to it, because it's a large resource of obsidian, and like I say, in New Zealand it's very, very hard to come by. So now, just so you know, this isn't the end of this series. Now what's going to happen next is we're going to see if we can make some things using this obsidian, probably more the fragments than this particular piece, because this is pretty usable as it is, but the smaller pieces we're going to look at using them in the context in which they would have been used in a Neolithic sense. So we're going to be going back to a kind of like a primitive technology. Shout out to his videos, and if you haven't seen him already, you should definitely go check him out. But that style of technology. And then later on, we're going to be looking at some different resources. But for now, thank you for joining me. Thanks for coming back and seeing my videos. I really appreciate people coming and being viewers and subscribing to my channel. It means a lot to me. I'm just a Kiwi boy from New Zealand teaching kids, and so it's great that I've got some loyal subscribers and viewers, and it keeps the viewers ticking over, because I love sharing what I know and sharing what I learn with you, the viewer. But for now, ka kite anō. Until next time, I look forward to seeing you. If I don't see you before Christmas, which I hope I will, fingers crossed, have a lovely holiday season, and I'll see you in the new year. Ka kite anō. Cheer.